I want to go back to talk about the Ambler Farm lease negotiations. And there's this sort of emotional side of the discussion of Ambler Farm and how important it is. And then there's the financial side that the Board of Finance brought in and addressed and asked the Board of Selectmen to address with some of the financial parts of the lease negotiation. Um, how do you think that has gone? And I know some of it you can't talk about given what's happening with the negotiations. Um, but how has it impacted negatively, positively the relationship with Friends of Ambler Farm? How, do you think that the Board of Finance handled this in the right way?
Well, I think the Board of Finance had every right to comment the way they did. I found their comments helpful in the negotiations. The I don't really want to comment on how the breakdown, what I consider to be almost like a breakdown. It went from being private to not private. We were able to do contract negotiations in private, but it somehow became public in the end. We've spent a lot of money on legal costs so far on it. That did not have to happen. The Board of Selectmen, in good faith, are trying to do what's best for the town. At least that's, I can say that for myself. And I see it around the table, of course, but I don't want to speak for anybody else. I think my background gives me a different perspective on things, and I tend to be able to separate out emotions. Politics don't come into play when I think about things. We were just discussing something at a meeting recently, and someone said, well, how's that going to play politically? And I just think, well, what does that have to do with this, right? We either do it or we don't. It was able to separate that. And I just looked at this as a lease with a nonprofit. I was able to look at the different reasonings that they provided, and make my own determination that actually the way the lease is written, like right now, it won't get them to their goals for different things. I hope that we can rebuild that relationship. I went to Ambler Farm. I still appreciate them. I hope that privately they still respect us and understand that we all bring a different skill set to the board, and we have to make decisions based on our perspectives on things, and that's what makes the board great, right? So you have people that obviously are very attached to the farm, and in my opinion, struggle to separate that feeling from the lease negotiations. Whereas I really do just want the best for everybody with the town and fairness, right? So like I've brought up a few times, like, town hall and the garden club, and that is some people have difference of opinion whether or not it's the same or not the same, but in my mind it's very similar and should be. Why would you treat one group preferable over another? And so we were almost to the idea that like we should just keep something simple in place for right now, and then once that Raymond Ambler house is built, because that's really where we got stuck, right? It's like, who's going to pay to run that building? That's really where it comes down to. And I think because we don't know what it's going to cost to run the building, it's really hard to generate a lease for even a few years after the fact of when it's going to be built. That who's going to cover the cost, because we have no idea what it's going to cost. It was never the intention to make anyone feel bad, or but we have to think about things without emotions. I think we do. So